have to start with the right cucumber. That means the small salad or pickling cucumbers and not one of these gigantic scary cucumbers. They're not scary, but you don't want to use them for pickling. So we want a small cucumber, and what we're going to start with is, this is the blossom end of the cucumber, which is the light end, and you want to cut about 1/4 inch off of there. It gets rid of an enzyme that makes it easier to have a crispy pickle, so that's really important. And then we're going to cut it in half. And how big you have it is really up to you. I prefer, since these cucumbers are so small, to leave it in half, but you can do it in quarters if you prefer. So we're going to do this for a total of 1.25 pounds of cucumbers. So we're going to prep them like that. And then this all needs to be done actually 8 to 12 hours in advance, because you need to let the cucumbers rest in the salted water, so it will pull the water out of the cucumber and allow your pickling brine to infuse. So we're dumping 3 tablespoons of pickling salt, which is different than iodized table salt. You really want something that doesn't have any chemicals in it, because it will dissolve easier and it will not cloud your brine and make it difficult to see if your pickles are ready to eat or safe to eat. So we dissolve the pickling salt in there, and then we're going to pour it over our cucumbers. And we're going to let this sit for 8 to 12 hours at room temperature on your counter. Okay, now we're ready to put the cucumbers into the jar, and one thing that's going to be really helpful from here on out is are these 4 tools, which come in 1 canning kit from Ball. Very inexpensive, readily available at most big grocery stores, big box stores. Also a lot of hardware stores carry them. So you want the canning kit, and then what you want to be sure is you have canning jars, which are heat-tempered jars. Again, Ball is a great resource for affordable ones that are readily available. You have your jar. You have this lid with a rubberized circumference here, so it will seal, and your ring, and all of this will come together in the box with the jars. So I've got a garlic clove I'm going to put in here, and then I'm going to take my prepared cucumbers and then just start putting them in, grabbing some onions a little bit at a time as we go. You don't have to be very specific or scientific about this part. You want to stack them up. That's the way you're going to get the most in there, and you want it to be tight, but you don't want it to be so tight that the brine can't get down in there, or that it can't circulate around. So I could probably do 1 more here, and then after that it's going to get too tight. So that's good. And then my brine, I poured into a pitcher here just to make it easier. And then you're going to take the funnel from your canning kit to protect the jar a little bit so you don't make a mess, and pour the brine in until about 1/2 inch from the top of the jar. So, and you can measure that actually with this tool. There'll be markings on here. Measure the 1/2 inch. But first thing, what I'm going to do is going to go in and release some air bubbles, because usually then the brine will drop a little bit and you'll have cucumbers sticking out, and so you want to go back in with a little bit more brine. So I'm going to bring my funnel back over. I just need a pair here. So you're 1/2 inch here. Use this tool. You can measure it around. It'll be marked. So we're ready, and really important, you want to wipe the top of your jar with a clean, wet cloth to get any brine off, because if it's kind of sitting on top here, the jar might not seal and the pickles won't be safe to eat. So another piece of our canning kit going to go in. The lids have been sitting in hot water to soften up around the edge here so it will seal better. I'm going to put this on top, take my ring, screw it on just so it's finger tight. You don't want to really squeeze too hard, because some air still needs to be able to escape. And then you're ready to go into your canner. Okay, so we're ready to go in the canner, and I have a kettle on the stove here that is overheat, and the only requirements are that it's 2 to 3 inches taller than the jars that you're using, and that you have something in the bottom, either a rack or a trivet. I have a silicone trivet in here that keeps the jars off of the heat. You don't want them directly onto the heat. So it's not boiling, it's probably 180 degrees. So I'm going to use another tool in my canning kit, lift the jar up. You want to keep it straight, you don't want to slosh it around, you don't want that brine that's seeping out, and put it straight down. Okay, then we're going to put the lid on here, crank crank up the heat, and you want to bring this to a boil. And it'll probably take 5 to 10 minutes depending on how hot your water is when you put the cucumbers in. So once it comes to a boil, you're going to set your timer for 10 minutes. At the end of the 10 minutes, turn the heat off, take the lid off, let the jars rest for about 5 minutes just to give the lid more of a chance to seal. Okay, so our water boiled for 10 minutes, we took the lid off, left it alone for 5 minutes, and now we're ready to pull the jars out. And again, you want to go in with your tool and your canning kit, and you want to pull it straight out without juggling it around. There'll be water on top, leave it alone, and bring it over to your towel. Do that for all the jars, and then you're going to leave it here 12 to 24 hours, and during that time is where your seal will happen. So leave it alone, don't touch it, don't move it, put it on a towel on your counter, and then 12 hours later, your pickles are done. Okay, so after 12 to 24 hours when your pickles have been sitting on the counter, now is when you need to check the seal. This is the magic time. So you're going to open your ring, pull your ring off, and you want to check the seal. And if it did what it's supposed to do, you're not going to be able to pull this off with your fingers. That means if the seal did what it was supposed to do, you can put it on your pantry shelf and leave it there for up to 12 months. If you open up a jar and this happens, that means the seal didn't happen for any number of reasons. It could have been brine on the lid. Sometimes it just, maybe you have a bad lid. So in that case, they are still safe, but you need to put them in your refrigerator. Don't keep them on your counter. This one needs to go in the fridge because it didn't seal. This one can go on your pantry shelf because they were good to go. For more DIY tips and useful information, pick up the April 2014 issue and visit IndianapolisMonthly.com.